Hello everyone, and welcome to my stream. My name is Matt, and my tags have varied throughout the years, but I decided to reinvent myself recently, and I'm going to go with Dr. Trollicola. Sounds stupid, I know. I don't care. This tutorial is going to be about the Rogue class, Trickster Rogue class in Neverwinter. I've done a lot of research on different specs. I've watched several videos, and this is the one that I've come up with that is going to net you high kills and low deaths if used properly. Now, the first thing I'm going to tell you about this spec is, actually this class in general, is you need to break yourself of tunnel vision. Now, what is tunnel vision? Tunnel vision is when you start a fight and you get somebody to half health or something, and then you begin to chase them through the entire enemy team. A lot of rogues do it. Don't. You need to break yourself of that. This game is very bursty. It's made and created on the premises of high damage spells on multiple class across the board. So therefore, you are always going to run into situations where if a class gets a hold of you, they're going to be able to kill you outright. And if you run through an entire team, especially in the opening wave, chasing a kill, 9 times out of 10 you're going to die. So let's break that habit first. Once we move past that, let's get into the actual spec. I play on Beholder, and I have a 10k gear score. I've been playing for a little while, so it's not necessarily amazing to have high gear scores in PvP because once you get to a certain point, I want to say about 9k, the damage up and down is within 4,000 to 6,000, which with the health pools being in this game between 22,000 and 38,000, maybe 40 on really geared out tanks, that extra 4,000 is going to be pretty much overkill with a lot of the abilities that rogues use anyway. So we'll get into it, starting with the powers. Your early ability, Sly Flourish, you level up, you use to level up, it's great early, but it's crap late, so we'll just get rid of that. Dazing Strike, it's cool if you can land it, but most good PvPers know it's coming. And how you know it's coming is because the rogue jumps in the air and does this crouching tiger, hidden douchebag move, and everyone just dodges out of it. So the far superior ability is later in the tree. So let's not worry about that late game. Cloud of Steel, amazing. It gives rogues a great advantage to have a ranged ability to use. Bloodbath, it's great early on. It's not going to be your main daily. I call it an ultimate because I'm used to playing League of Legends, and it's pretty much what it is your ulti. I use it for situations where I'm being focused intensely and I need to get the hell out. So, or just deal damage to multiple enemies and be untargetable for a while, because it's better to go out with a bang than it is to just lay down and play dead. So a lot of times I'll use this ability in situations where the initial fight begins in PvP. Most good teams will send 4 people into the mid, or for 2, and they'll send 1 back. Good teams do that. In that situation, what I'm saying by the opening fight is you're getting your first team fight. And rogues tend to be a hated class in whatever game you play. So you're going to get focused. It is just kind of your get out of jail free card. It's your ability to become untargetable, deal damage in the opening fight without just getting, force choked or CC'd by some other class and killed outright. So I keep it around. Sneak attack, meh. Death strike, and lashing blade. These two abilities I absolutely adore. I love them. Death strike gives you amazing mobility for getting in and out of fights, chasing down people whenever you're in 1v1 situations, or whenever they're running behind your lines. Especially if you're trying to demount somebody. It sounds pretty bad, but it's true. When they're on their horse and they're running towards your base to cap your point, get behind you to basically skew the numbers so that your team leaves the centralized point so they can cap that one and get a team advantage. I use it in those situations to demount people so that I can gang up on them and kill them quickly and efficiently to get back to 2 as soon as possible. Holding the midpoint is a necessity, in my opinion. So, yes. Lashing Blade, it is your God Strike. It is your opening blow. It is your heaven, is what it is. Okay, it does high damage, as you can see. Mine does 5,300 to 6,300. Okay, and it guarantees a critical strike well stealthed. Oh, yes, amazing. I've had 16 to 20k crits on people with this bad boy. So it is your main ability, main encounter ability that you're going to be using probably the most often. And if you land it, you're going to get the kill. I would say probably 80% of the time you're going to get the kill. So, yeah. Moving down, Whirlwind of Blades. It's good for PvE, but not so much for PvP. First Strike. Oh, it's amazing. Alright, your first attack in combat deals 5% additional damage, and you can level it up 2 more times to give you an additional 5% each. Need I say more? No. Let's skip this and move down to the next tree. Duelist Fury. This is going to replace you, or Sly Flourish, in late game PvP. And I will explain why in a moment. So we'll put a pin in that. Moving down to the bottom, Skillful Infiltrator. It should be your other one. This is a necessity no matter what kind of rogue you like playing, what kind of spec you're using, what kind of build you're using, what kind of items you're speccing into or leaning toward. It gives you 5% run speed, 1 crit, 1 dodge, and it stacks 3 times. Crit, run speed, dodge. Okay. Smoke Bomb. As we spoke earlier, Dazing Strike, any good PvPer is going to see it coming. Whereas Smoke Bomb, it's an instant cast, has a large radius, and it gives you the mobility to get in, get your kill, and get out. You want high kills, low deaths? Smoke Bomb's the way to go. Shocking Execution. It is what everyone gripes about. Okay, it ignores the defense completely, and as you spec into it, the lower their health, the more damage it does. And I will tell you right now, I have crit people for 40 to 60,000 damage with it. And I'm talking about tanks, I'm talking about mages. It doesn't matter what class it is, it will crit for, just an example earlier today, I crit a 11k gear score Guardian, GF, for 27,000, and he was at, I think, 71% health. Killed him outright. It is the great equalizer, as it be, or as it were. So, those are the main abilities that I use. All my feats coincide with heavy hits out of stealth, and with using, as I said earlier, Duelist Fury. It's this guy right here. Advantages of Duelist Fury. 3 big ones. A, it has the ability to put on a dot. And if they're running, warping, dodging in any way whatsoever, a dot on them is always a good thing. Because if you got them low, that's going to give you an easy opportunity to death strike, and your dot will finish them off. B, it follows the target slightly. meaning you get your first hit, you get your second hit, and then as you're warping, if they start moving, as long as your cursor is on them and they're not double warping away from you, you're going to kind of follow with them. And lastly, the feat right here, Deadly Momentum, procs off of it and gives you 5 stacks of 3% crit severity, okay? Which you can continue to use in the momentum, meaning you can continue to use your Death Strike and keep, Death Strike, you continue to use your Duelist Fury, just keep going and see your crits going higher and higher, or you can do what I do, which is I open up, I use my Duelist Fury to stack 5 times, then I go Stealth if it's up immediately afterwards, and use that crit severity for my Lashing Blade, which will add an additional 2,000 or 3,000 damage on top of your normal base. So that's what I do, okay? It's a logical way to basically chain through abilities and kill multiple targets. Now, me personally, I like the bottom row. I like to go down to the bottom row and then into the bottom one here, because the last ability, Overrun Critical, when you land a critical hit, one of your next attacks strikes for 30% of your crit severity. You basically want to chain your blows together. You want your crits to hit hard, and you want to be able to basically do your damage and get the hell out, like I said before. So anything that you see in the tree that has to do with getting in and getting your damage and getting out is going to be what you want to take. Okay, so I went with crits. So I went with cutting ambush. You deal 2, 4, and 6% more damage. 6 seconds after leaving stealth. Increases your chance to deflect. Well, that really doesn't do much in the sense of crit for stealth, but it is pretty awesome because my type of playstyle, I like to have sort of an advantage and balance my defense with my offense. That's why I took it. Obviously, while we're on that subject, toughness is in a lot of different trees. Skills that increase your maximum hit points, that's always a good thing to take, especially early on and late. Early on, you want it for leveling because you never can have enough health in situations where maybe a pack comes by at the wrong moment and you're going to need it, or in PvP in general, because more health with more abilities, just stacked abilities like deflect and your ability to dodge, it's going to give you a leg up against other rogues, which are going to be doing the same thing you are, jumping you and trying to crit you and kill you and then get out. So there you go. This one here in the middle, Discipline of Strength increases the amount of bonus damage Strength gives you by 2, 4, and 6%. I maxed it out because obviously Strength is a secondary ability to you, and I kind of tweaked my build to accommodate it for higher damage output, but also because in this game what I love is that Strength also gives you dot damage resistance. And you'll notice that one of your biggest weaknesses as a rogue is dots, especially in late game when you get 2 control wizards tossing a whole bunch of stuff on you. If you don't have at least some resistance to it, and this was my logic when I took it, was if I get a double stack on me, by the time the dots finish ticking, I'm at 60% health, or maybe a little bit lower, so 50 to 60%, which means that now I have to leave my team and the team fight in general to go grab a health potion and then return to the fight. While I'm gone in my absence, I'm not taking anyone out, I'm not adding to the fight, I'm not helping anybody, so therefore your base is probably going to get overrun. Your point, your node is going to get overrun. So that was one thing I really like about this game, is that they put dot damage resistance on Strength as well, so it gives you kind of an added bonus to just damage, which obviously damage is important, but dot damage resistance for me is also key for a rogue, because you want to be able to stay in the fight. Now, when I say stay in the fight, I don't mean literally stay in the middle of the fight. You want to get in, do your damage, get back, not have a whole lot of, because they're going to, as soon as you get in and, crit somebody, instant give somebody, the wizards are instantly going to turn on you and dot you. It's the first thing they're going to do. They're going to choke and dot, choke and dot. So that's why when I'm going to show you my rotation, I normally do a lot of dodging right after my initial blows. That way I went in, hit my target, and I'm dodging immediately, so that as soon as they see me pop out of stealth and basically kill somebody, they look at me and they say, oh my god, there's a rogue there, I'm going to mess him up. Okay, well great, I'm already rolling, so their first ability is going to be choke, so as I'm rolling, they cast choke, and I dodge it. Pretty awesome. And then it also will aid you with, like I said, the dot damage resistance versus the dots that are going to be placed on you. So that's just my methodology to what I do. Just giving you a heads up. As far as gear-wise, I like to put a high preference on critical strike, armor penetration, and power. Those are obviously your three main abilities that you want on a rogue. Okay, especially if you're PvPing, armor penetration is a fantastic thing. A lot of people don't like armor penetration as much for a lot of different reasons, mostly because there's a lot of abilities and enchants you can buy in this game that instantly decrease someone's defense down to 0. Well, armor penetration is going to be a lasting effect. So even though there's abilities and enchants out there that can drop someone's armor down a ways, okay? And the same token, there is a need to have something that is constant. So for me, I just love it, and I feel it's a high priority to mix and match into. Now, critical strike and power, obviously a necessity as well for pretty much any DPS class, but it's kind of tricky to balance it out to where you feel comfortable. I like to have my crit hover anywhere between 38 and 40% at all times, just because I want almost every other hit to crit, especially because, like I said earlier, as a rogue, you're opportunistic. So you want to basically be able to land 2 or 3 hits and kill somebody outright, and then leave the fight as fast and as quickly and as efficiently as you showed up. So crit is very important to me. And then power, for those of you that don't know, every 1,000 power equals 40 additional damage. And for every 1,000 armor penetration equals 10% resistance ignored. So there's your stats. I also find it beneficial to mix and match your gear in PvP, meaning I like to do 2 separate sets. Okay. So people like to roll full, PvE gear, so they feel they have a high power, it's going to do a lot of damage. It kind of does, but the final bonus on a lot of them you normally aren't going to use, because a lot of the PvE stuff is made for rogues that are staying in the fight and dealing damage constantly, single target damage to be exact. Whereas PvP, you're not going to be doing that as much. You're not going to be staying there just wailing on something from behind. You're going to be getting in, hitting, and leaving. So you're not really going to need to proc that stuff or use that stuff. Same thing goes with the PvP set for the rogue. The 4-piece set bonus gives you an additional 20% to your stealth meter. That's all fine and well, but an additional couple seconds doesn't seem like I'm losing all that much whenever I consider that if I roll 2 pieces of PvE gear, which I'm using Master Duelist because I like high crit, as I explained earlier, that's going to give me 400 critical strike, and PvP set's going to give me 400 lifesteal. So I feel having 402 separate stat categories versus taking, 4-piece set bonuses that really don't get used very much is a higher advantage to me. I'm eventually going to be trading these out for either Swashbuckler or Master Assassin pieces, because I'd like the 450 crit to go higher, or the 450 power, just because power and crit, once again, you're getting more than what you're giving up. And as you can see, I spec very high into both dex and strength. In retrospect, hindsight is 20/20. I should have put maybe 2 more points into dex, but I felt the strength was very important because of the dot damage and the damage bonus. And I also knew early on that I was going to spec into Disciple of Strength, so I was going to get more for my strength damage-wise coming out, and my initial hit than I was going for just straight crit, because I can get that off of my gear. So that was my impression going into it. Once again, you can do whatever you want, but that's just how I felt. Okay. Now that we've covered some of the basics of what I do, I'm going to go through my rotation and where I have my abilities put right now. I have Death Strike as my Q. The reason I do that is because I wanted both of the buttons that I'm going to be using to get into fights, out of fights, and doing the most of my damage, which is Lashing Blade, to be right next to my W key. I use a Razer mouse and keyboard. Some of you probably use, Nostromos, things like that. I would recommend keeping it directly correlated between the buttons that you run with, instead of putting one of these big hitters or these chasers in the R slot, just because it's just one more over. So it's just a little bit further over. Personal preference of mine, I like to have both of my big abilities right next to my fingers so they can just slide basically up. And I also like it because when you see my opening rotation, what I do when I go into the fight, I like to be able to slide my finger across. So what I mean by that is, let's say I'm approaching an enemy, okay, I'm going to stealth, and then if I hit W, E, and R, just put my finger straight across, okay, what that's doing at that point is I'm moving obviously with W, then I'm E-ing for my big hit, my big crit on whatever it is, and then after that point I'm hitting R immediately, which is going to do a area effect silence basically, which is going to keep people from doing things so I can roll out and get out of the fight. So that's my original opener, okay, especially against rogues and great weapon fighters, because that's going to give you a chance to get one of these bad boys in. Now you can chain these together, meaning if you notice in the top corner now, I have a buff, which is my Deadly Momentum, which has been proccing. You can see my dots rolling on that target. I like to utilize that Deadly Momentum in my next Death Strike. So if this is a big fight breaking out, I'm going to stack that off my first target. Okay, it's already gone up 3 times. I'm going to move, and then I'm going to use that crit chance on my next crit severity on my next target. So it's kind of just like chaining my abilities all together and keeping them all close knit with one another. Okay, so like I said originally, go in, your stealth, go in, get your E off, R immediately to drop that so that everyone is silenced around here. Okay, and then move your next target or your original target. Most of the time, that will kill the initial target. Now, one thing that's nice is having the range ability. If you want kind of a leg up, especially in 1v1 fights, I like to go stealth and whip a few daggers and then E them. Rogues don't really have a set rotation like Paladins did in World of Warcraft and Warriors did for aggro, and some of the classes even in this game have one. I know that the Great Weapon Fighter has a stun lock build, which is a straight rotation. In this game, it's a priority system with rogues, so you basically are always just situational. But for the most part, that's going to be your opener. It's coming in out of stealth with a lashing blow. It's guaranteeing you a crit, and it's going to be a big one. And then using your ranged ability, right there, just whipping 5 or 6 of them. I just did 2,500 damage. Sometimes they'll crit and you'll do 3,500 damage. You couple that with one of these, okay, 15, 5, 8, 3. That's somewhere in the vicinity of 19 to 20k damage, and most people only have 22,000 to even the best geared I've seen, 38 to 40,000, and that's just the tank class. So you've already done 20k damage just in two things. So that's what I mean about being opportunistic, is you want to utilize these abilities, and at the same time you want to use situational etiquette. Now, Death Strike being my Q, it's my chaser. So let's say that you go in, boom, hit somebody, drop this. At this point now, you have them down to half health, okay, and you have them with a daze. for a couple seconds. That's going to give you the advantage to get one of these bad boys off, which right there was just, you know, that would probably kill somebody. And you have the dots bleeding on them. Once again, you know, showing you the reason why Duelist Fury is, you know, the superior of the abilities to use as your at-will. And then you know, you're going to roll out, you have somebody dead, you're maximizing survivability. Now you're going to be opportunistic. You've come into the initial fight, you've killed somebody or got somebody very, very, very low. They're probably either dead or running out of the fight. You've done your job. Okay, you've done your job. You've eliminated somebody from the team fight, so now you want to sit back a bit. At this point, what I'll do is I'll actually sit back, whip some daggers, go invisible, whip some daggers, just basically, you know, lower people's health, while at the same time, you know, focusing on, you know, staying kind of in the backfield a little bit and waiting. Now, once you see that somebody's at half health, 75% health, that's when you want to jump back in again. Once again, we're opportunistic fighters. So you're going to go stealth again, go back in, get your big crit off, okay? Or you can, you know, go stealth and warp to them. And, you know, that's going to be your finisher abilities, your opportunistic abilities, polishing the people off that were kind of surrounding the area. That's how I like to do the opening fight. Get in, get my first kill, get out immediately, and then kind of pick people off from the background a little bit. You know, do some damage to make sure that you know, you're still contributing to the fight, but you're not taking a lot of damage, because you don't want to have to, you know, like I said earlier, leave the fight to go potion. You want to